Detection of explosives and explosives marker on fragments of the aircraft Tu-154M, PLF-101, during the inspection on September 22, 2012. During the inspection of parts of the aircraft by Polish specialists, described in the Polish-language version of the report regarding the inspection of fragments, which was conducted on September 22, 2012. During this inspection, portable detectors, i.e. explosive sensors, were used, including the hardened, mobile trace detector with the series number 190055, abbreviated as HMT. According to the report, during the operation, there were many alarms that were either not described in the protocol or described in such a way as to falsify the actual detector readings. However, the HMT detector made it possible to store readings and alarms in an event log. The register of this device was placed in the case files on the basis of requests from the victim's lawyer, Piotr Pszczółkowski, to secure the detector records and include them as the evidence. During the activities carried out with the use of the HMT detector, in accordance with the register of events attached to the case files, TNT, RDX, HMX, explosive from the nitro library and a marker of the plastic explosive PMNT were detected. In the report of the inspection signed by all the participants who did not submit any reservation statements, comments or clarifications regarding the investigative activity performed, concluded that no explosive traces were detected, including TNT and RDX, HMX, nor the detection of the PMNT plastic explosives marker, despite the fact that the alarms for the detection of these explosive traces appeared repeatedly. Also, the fact that the names of explosives appeared on the device's displays of all detectors was hidden. Deliberate concealment of the facts took place not only in the inspection report. Also, in the event log of the HMT detector, one can find sudden discontinuity of alarm numbering that should be recorded. The only way to remove alarms from the register is deliberate switching off the alarm by the device operator or manual deleting inconvenient records. During the inspection, the persons responsible for operating the detectors misled the other participants of the inspection by falsely stating that nitro means the content of chemical compounds having a nitro group. With reference to the name nitro that appeared on the detector display and according to the detector user manual, it refers to a group of 8 specific explosives stored in the device's custom library, which, according to the detector register, the operator selected before the start of the tests. The name nitro appearing on the display does not mean any chemical containing any substance with nitro group, but particular one or more explosives from the detector's library. Misleading the participants of the inspection also took place when using the second detector. An explosive detection alarm is interpreted as the detection of any chemical substance, contrary to what is written in the detector's technical specifications. The MO2M detector only detects explosives from a group that has been described in detail by the device manufacturer. In order to facilitate the detection of explosives produced in plastic form, the 1991 convention introduced a requirement to mark such materials with dedicated chemicals. The convention has been ratified by most countries in the world, including Poland in 2008. The technical annex to the convention specifies the types of tags, among which the PMNT tag is also included. This marker, although less frequently used than others due to its toxicity, was used between others in the Czech Republic to mark a small batch of Semtex. From the 1990s, it was also used by France and the Russian Federation to mark plastic explosives. During the inspection on September 22, 2012, the PMNT marker was detected at least 3 times, including once on one of the elements of the aircraft together with explosive material from the nitro library of the HMT detector. Such a configuration, in which alarms, nitro libraries and the explosive plastic tag occur together, narrows the identification of potential explosives detected by the HMT detector. There are only 3 such materials in the nitro library. These are datasheet and 2 varieties of Semtex, or their equivalents with the same characteristics of the spectrum analyzed by the detector. The fact of detecting the PM&T plastic explosives marker was not noted in the inspection report in any case. According to the report of September 22, 2012, fragments of metal components of the aircraft collected in a closed room were subject to inspection on that day. Most of them were parts of electronic blocks from the front technical compartment and fragments of the cockpit. The remaining fragments, as it was determined, were a fragment of the first spar of the right wing and elements of wing mechanization. At the very beginning of the inspection, the detector used indicated the presence of explosives on these parts. It should be added that previous attempts to detect explosives in the room itself were negative, so they did not indicate, for example, that explosives had been stored in this place beforehand, or that it had been contaminated with explosive residues. This fact was recorded in the report. The first not recorded in the report detection of explosives took place at the time when the floor of the cockpit of the aircraft was being examined. At that time, an alarm appeared in the HMT detector register detecting TNT and another explosive from the group of explosives from the nitro library. The inspection report does not contain any information about the appearance of the alarm. It is not clear whether this fact was not noted, or whether the detector operator simply performed the test himself without informing the other participants about the test, turning off the alarm sound in the process. The alarm information, however, was automatically recorded in the event log. The presence of explosives on a fragment of the right wing was found using 3 detectors. The first detector was MO2M, which generated an audible alarm signal. The operator of the device did not inform what explosive had been detected, although according to the technical specification of the device, the name of the detected explosive had to appear on its display. The report only describes that when a given device is lifted to different parts of the indicated component, a monotonous, constantly repeating sound is heard in the area of 3 sections. Next, the HMT detector was used. In this case, the description from the inspection report is inconsistent with the real inspection results. During the course of the activities, not 1 test was performed, as described in the protocol, but 3. The detector register describes sample 001 and 003. Sample 002 is not described. In all of them there was an alarm of the nitro group, and additionally in sample number 003 there was an alarm of the PM&T plastic explosives marker. The detection of the PM&T tag was not included in the report, and the appearance of a nitro alarm indicating the presence of an explosive from the device's library was misleadingly described as the content of compounds having a nitro group. After the control samples have been used, the third explosives detector is selected. This is how its use is described in the inspection report. Then the Polish specialist uses a pilot device with the series number 01177, which is placed on the unit with the inscription U-121, in order to find traces of residual explosive material, in the area of 3 fragments indicated by the MO2M device, placing the device on these fragments. A monotonous sound was created in the area of 3 sections. However, the protocol did not mention that the third detector also has a display on which the name of the explosive that generated the alarm sound must have appeared. It was also not noted that the HMT detector was used again, which at that time again indicates that there is a marker of the plastic explosion PM&T on the tested fragment. After inspecting fragments of the cockpit floor and a fragment of the first spar of the right wing, where the presence of explosives was detected, along with a marker of plastic explosives, the participants of the inspection examined additional fragments of the airplane collected in the room. The effects of these tests were not recorded in the report, although report indicated that several dozen components and aggregates of the aircraft were inspected. The MO2M detector was also used. When one of the specialists placed the detector on the fragment number P057, an alarm signal sounded. This is how it was described in the inspection report. A Polish specialist using the MO2M device with the series number B1120 examines an aggregate with an inscription made on it with a black marker P057. By placing a given device at a distance of 5 to 10 centimeters from the unit being tested, a monotonous, repetitive sound was heard. Then, the Polish specialist applied for several seconds a synthetic tampon to a fragment of the unit with the inscription P057, from which the monotonous, constantly repeating sound of the B1120 device was heard, and the tampon was inserted into a special HMT device. After the examination is completed, a special signal sounded. According to the explanations, on the tested aggregate P057 nitro was found. The description of the test in this case does not correspond to the factual results, because at that case the name of the detected plastic marker of the PMNT explosive appeared on the display of the device, not nitro. At the time 2:04:57 p.m., the HMT detector was used again. Examination of an unknown element of the aircraft showed the presence of TNT. The fact of using the detector and the alarm about finding explosives was again not recorded in the inspection report. At 2:10 p.m., the HMT detector again indicates the detection of TNT. The alarm during the examination of an unknown element of the aircraft is not recorded again in the inspection report. According to the photo documentation, more electronic devices of the aircraft are being examined at that time. At 2:26 p.m., during the examination of one of the deformed fragments of the electronic device of the aircraft marked with the number B130, an alarm for the detection of explosive material appeared in the MO2M sector. Once again, its name was not noted in the report, which had to appear on the display. Then the pilot detector is used, which does not confirm the presence of explosives. The findings of the subcommittee show that both detectors, despite the fact that their detection sensitivity specified in the technical specifications is similar, in fact differ in sensitivity and depending on the adopted detection method, the mode of setting the sensitivity of the devices, humidity and temperature of the environment, as well as the type of tested explosive material, and the adopted test method. It is also incomprehensible to abandon the verification examination using the swab from the tested part in HMT detector, although it was possible. Around 2:25 p.m., the participants of the inspection returned to work at the aggregate marked with the number P057. An MO2M detector was used and the alarm signal appeared again. The operator of the device did not mention the name of the explosive that appeared on the display, but stated that the alarm indicated the detection of any chemical substance. At the same time, according to the event log of the HMT detector, it was also used, but in this case the results were not recorded in the report, although the records in the register shown that there was an alarm indicating the detection of TNT. From the moment explosives were detected on the wreckage of the plane, a disinformation campaign began. It was aimed at misleading the public as to the circumstances and causes of the occurrence of so many traces of explosives, as well as the variety of explosive substances. Already at the end of October 2012, that is, immediately after the completion of the inspection carried out in Smolensk, an article by Hezaru Gamuz entitled TNT on the wreckage of the Tupolev was published in Rzeczpospolita. The author of this article did not realize that he had been misled by his informant, who gave him information about the detection of TNT in nitroglycerin. In fact, TNT was detected, but no nitroglycerin was detected in any case, which is confirmed by the HMT detector event log. The name nitro appearing during the alarm did not mean nitroglycerin, but one of the specific explosives from the list described as nitro. The author of the article was not informed that, in addition to TNT, hexagon and octagon, which are components of plastic explosive compositions, were detected, as well as the PM&T marker confirming that some of the traces came from such types of explosive materials. At the beginning of December 2012, after the publication of an article that shocked public opinion, the disinformation campaign continued. This time, with the participation of military prosecutors during a meeting of the Justice and Human Rights Committee, prosecutors did not inform MPs that apart from TNT, other explosives were detected, as well as a marker of plastic explosives. Instead of this information, MPs and the public heard opinions questioning the effectiveness of explosives detectors, including the absurd and not supported by any rational arguments or evidence statement of the prosecutor that the detector detects TNT on shoe polish, and that tests with detectors have no procedural value. As author wrote in his article, in April 2012 the head of the prosecutor's office Andrei Saramet referred to the Russian findings, saying that the Russians were investigating the wreckage and ruled out the explosion. How great was the trust to Russians' opinion, since on the day of the Commission's meeting at the beginning of December 2012, the military prosecutor's office had only Russian-language versions of the inspection protocols prepared by the Russians, but it informed the public as if they produced their own findings according to the documentation contained in the files. The data from the HMT detector event register was delivered to the prosecutor's office only on February 12, 2013. During the meeting of the Commission, the whole narration was based only on fabricated and manipulated Russian documents, which were authenticated by the hands of Polish specialists who signed the Russian lies. However, it should be emphasized that prosecutors of the Chief Military Prosecutor's Office participated in the inspection and examination of the remains of the Polish plane. If they have not been misled by specialists operating the detectors, they should have full knowledge of what explosives were detected, in what quantity and on what elements. Such information was not provided to the public. Instead, in the months and years that followed, so-called media pundits about nitroglycerin and the seats on which the soldiers traveled to Afghanistan. Meanwhile, the facts hidden from the public were quite different. Explosives were located in many places of the airplane. They were also detected in the cockpit area, on metal parts and electronic devices. Already on the first day of the use of the detectors, it was indicated that the amount and type of explosives, as well as the presence of a plastic explosives marker, indicates the possibility of existence of a complex pyrotechnic installation. This fact was confirmed not only by the presence of explosive substances, but also, which was omitted in the public discourse, by the occurrence of characteristic damage after detonation, as well as injuries to passengers and crew. These elements created a coherent picture of the tragedy as a result of a deliberate action aimed to assassinate the President of the Republic of Poland Lech Kaczynski, his wife and all other people on board the plane. From the ongoing analysis of the Russian reports from the inspection of the debris, carried out in September and October 2012 and again in July and August 2013, only the results of September 22, 2012 were presented. As mentioned, the explosion of explosives leaves, in addition to its trace remains, also characteristic material damage, depending on the environment in which the explosion occurred. In Smolensk, the explosions took place inside the aluminum fuselage of the plane. The Defense Science and Technology Laboratory in Kent, UK, examined 238 samples sent by Poland, among which there were only 7 swabs from metal parts. Traces of explosives were detected on 3 swabs from the metal shell of the fuselage identified by the subcommittee. No one has access to this place without dismantling the internal structure of the plane. The first explosion destroyed the left wing and cut off its tip. It shone the characteristic damage described in the world literature, which can only occur in a metal structure during an explosion. These are the so-called post-explosion curls. The occurrence of even single such markers is already evidence of an explosion. The largest fragment of the fuselage with the roof torn along the 2L stringer was destroyed in the air as a result of internal pressure produced by explosion. When hitting the ground in an inverted position, it is impossible to turn the roof and sides outside the fuselage, which was confirmed by the simulations of the impact carried out by NIAR, in which the roof and sides are pushed inside the fuselage. The edges on the left and right sides of the torn roof fit exactly to each other, so the roof could not be destroyed by any obstacle. This proves beyond any doubt that the roof rupture was caused by internal pressure in the fuselage while the aircraft was still in the air. At the wreckage site, the Russians quickly cut off and removed both sides of the roof to cover up this fact. Examples of post-explosion curls twisted above 360 degrees. Such curls can only be formed as a result of an explosion. This type of damage is widely described in professional literature, for example, in a book by Alexander Beveridge published in 1998. Another unambiguous evidence of the explosion are the so-called post-explosion spikes, which are formed only as a result of the explosion. Examples can be found in the textbook, by metallurgist Ramachandran. This author, on the basis of the analysis of metal parts extracted from the bottom of the ocean, proved that the crash of Boeing 747 Air India on June 23, 1985 was caused by an explosion on board. Traces of explosive residue found on metal parts of the plane. They were detected along the entire structure of the aircraft. From the cockpit, through the fuselage and wings, to the stabilizers. Each of the presented photos of metal parts shows the residues detected on these parts, classic explosives such as RDX, TNT, or nitro explosives, and the PM&T plastic explosive marker. The following photos of metal parts of the aircraft fuselage show self-evident different examples of explosion markers like spikes, reverse slant fracture, craters. This is especially visible in post-blast curls twisted beyond 360 degrees, which is clear evidence of an explosion. Representatives of the subcommittee participated as observers in the exhumations of the victims of the catastrophe carried out by the prosecutor's office. The subcommittee made a precise analysis of all the autopsy protocols and included it in a restricted appendix to the report. One of the examples shared in the subcommittee report is the percentage of bodies with burns among the victims of the disaster. The fires at the crash site were small and limited, yet burns were identified among 39% of the victims outside the fire areas. The subcommittee contracted the National Institute for Aviation Research, NIAR, to generate detailed finite element model of the Tu-154M which could be used to simulate the crash of the plane into the ground. NIAR conducted such simulation according to initial conditions from the mock report. The results of this simulation, which has been in the works for almost 3 years, are limited to 1 second after hitting the ground. They are marked in yellow in the photo. The greatest damage occurred in the first 300 milliseconds. It is now possible to compare the actual dispersion of the aircraft at the crash site with the simulation result and the silhouette of the aircraft. This illustrates the degree to which an aircraft has broken into tens of thousands of parts, which is only possible as a result of the use of explosives. These are only selected examples of evidence of destruction of an aircraft by explosions. A full set of evidence can be found in the final report of the subcommittee and thousands of pages of attachments. During the work of the subcommittee in recent months, the list of evidence has been further expanded. They clearly testify to the destruction of the plane with the use of explosives, which caused the death of 96 people on board, headed by the President of the Republic of Poland, Professor Lech Kaczynski.